Hello, and welcome back to the Play It Forward podcast presented by PeacePlayers, the podcast where we lift up voices and stories of people working in their communities and networks to promote peace and equity. My name is Chinny Nwagbo, and I am your host. I am so excited to be here. I'm always excited to be here, mainly because I work with Emmett, who's amazing. And the other part is because we always have some pretty phenomenal guests. That being said, on today's episode, we will be speaking to our very special guest and plus one on his passion project and how he uses rugby to provide equitable experiences for young people. But before we do that, I give you a little prelude into why this show is what it is. I've got to introduce my very amazing, handsome, incredible co-host, Emmett Shepard. Emmett.
Guys, calm down. I'm just a person. I put the pants on just like everybody else. Chinny. You know, my therapist loves you because she's just like, you provide so much good, positive compliments to me early in the morning that she's just like, yeah, wherever Chinny is, just stay where she is because she just provides so much sunlight. Chinny, how are you?
I'm doing well. I am excited to be alive. I kind of want to take your line and say I'm jubilant with joy.
Jubilant with joy, the double J, as we like to call it.
You know,
I'm going with cold coffee today. Ooh. We needed something with a little extra kick because I wanted to be awake for these. We have two guests, like you said, two incredible guests. But before we dive into that, hello, everyone. My name is Emmett Shepard. I am the co-host, the incredibly lanky, somewhat goofy co-host, too, as I always like to say, the beautifully intelligent and incredibly just good-looking Chinny Nwagbo, who is really, truly the face of this whole podcast, really. I'm just in her shadow at this point. Before I pass it over to Chinny to introduce our guests, people of the Play It Forward podcast, let me just remind you that we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and we would love for you to send out reviews, 5-star reviews only, obviously, your comments, your concerns about what outfits me and Chinny should wear on our episodes.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, just help us out a little bit. It helps with the algorithm, and we appreciate your feedback. Chinny, absolutely. Now that we got housekeeping out of the way, without further ado, who are we talking to today?
All right. Our guest today has been making headlines for nearly 10 years. That's a long time. At the age of 22, he created a high school rugby team as a passion project while working as a teacher in Memphis, Tennessee with Teach for America. I love Teach for America. Mm-hmm. He, along with others in the school and wider community, quickly realized that this rugby team was creating a positive, measurable change for underserved youth of the inner city Memphis. That's awesome. From there, he led a dual life as a teacher and rugby coach, organizing several more rugby teams across the city. Eventually, the entirely volunteer-based Memphis Inner City Rugby needed more than volunteers, and that would be when our very special guest today left his career as a teacher, and at the age of 27, became the executive director of the organization. Needless to say, not unlike PeacePlayers, our origin story, our guest today tapped into something meaningful and impactful that we can all explore together and be appreciative of. Mm-hmm. That being said, I'd like to welcome Shane Young and his plus one, who he's going to introduce. Shane, welcome. How are you?
Thank you wow, what an awesome introduction. We're honored to be here with PeacePlayers. Chinny and Emmett, thank you all so much. Great to be here.
Absolutely.
Thank Shane, you for coming on. Seriously, we appreciate it.
Of course.
Absolutely. Of course. Shane, you want to introduce us, your special guest that you have with you today?
Yes, it's one of my favorite people in the world, one of my heroes in life, Leroy Taylor, who I met when he was I believe a freshman or sophomore. I can never remember if it was his 9th or 10th grade year, but when he joined the rugby team that we had at the school I was teaching at, and he became just such a bright light on our team as a much smaller, more and less physically imposing presence than he is now. Leroy coming in as a back on our rugby team, and over the years becoming a captain and a leader, and just a huge influence on everybody that was around him in the school and rugby community, on my life. And his story is just inspiring. And I'll kind of let him finish his own introduction here because, of course, his life and story did not stop or end after high school. He's doing some awesome stuff right now. So this is Leroy Taylor, honored to sit next to him today. And can I give him a little update on
Leroy? Welcome, Leroy.
Thank you guys for having me. So yeah, I'm a college alumni coach now. So, and I also play with the Memphis Tigers.
Ooh.
Yeah, we compete in Division II competition.
Yeah.
Well, thank you and welcome to the show. That's awesome.
Oh my God.
Leroy really undersells himself. He's an incredible student athlete at the college level. He is not only coaching with MICR, so coaching the same kids that are in the program that he was a part of during high school, but he works on events with MICR. He even dabbles in some fundraising. He's incredibly talented and student government on campus.
Awesome. Very awesome.
So he's awesome. I didn't want to let him undersell himself right there.
No, that's great. You sound like me and Emmett there. So
yeah, no, he sounds like it sounds like you don't do enough, Leroy. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah,
so,
me and Emmett are pretty much doing the exact same things in our life. No, that's awesome and amazing.
Well, thank you both for coming on. We feel truly honored. And I want to, so before we, dive in to one of the greatest conversations we're going to have in all of the Play It Forward podcast, there is this thing we like to do. Now, I know that there are whispers of this on the East and West Coast, but I imagine that it's trailed down to the South and in Memphis as well. But
I think so.
This isn't the word on the street, and this is not me. I'm just the messenger at this point. But people call me the Icebreaker King. I did not give myself this title. This is just what the masses
is exactly what it is
given to me. And so basically how we want to start this episode is with an icebreaker, to break the ice, as one would say. And then we'll dive in. Is that something you guys are okay with?
Yeah, I'm for it. Yeah.
All right. Here we go.
Awesome.
So I'll ask, let's start with Leroy first, and then we'll go to Shane. So Leroy, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
The best piece of advice, I think, is to take it slow. Life can be really fast. Everything can kind of happen at once, especially when you try to get involved with so many things in life and you have so many issues with regular things that, even with kids, when I was in high school, that kids shouldn't have to, where it's my coach was telling me, slow down, take it one pace at a time. And then let it come to you. I was playing rugby, so let the game come to you. Mm-hmm. Let whatever task is there, let it come to you before, you try to go ahead, dive into it.
Yeah, exactly. Let the game come to you.
Yes.
And you can translate that to life just in general a lot of the time, like you said, in terms of life just in general moves around pretty fast. And especially when you're doing so many amazing things, you have to at least take a moment to sort of appreciate where you are and what it is that you built and what it is that you're continuing to build. You don't stop and look around once in a while. You might miss it,
Right.
Shouts out to Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But Shane, what about you? What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I would say that it's kind of a twofold thing. That number one, that being happy and healthy in life, inside is probably the most incredible goal anyone could achieve, especially in the modern world. And to do that is a daily battle. You're not just going to be handed happiness and a holistic, healthy, and balanced life. You have to battle for that. You have to fight for that. And sometimes that involves fully feeling the emotions of your life, whether they be bright and sunny or dark and painful. So the biggest accomplishment you can make in life is a happy and healthy one internally. And to do that, it's a battle, and you can win that battle by being authentic and present and facing the noise when it comes.
Yeah. Feel all the feelings, as my mom would say. You're not really experiencing life until you feel all of them. I completely live by that mantra. So
yeah. Thank you both for sharing. That was
all right.
awesome.
The ice is broken. Yes,
now we can continue. The king has done his job. So, we talked a bit about you. Congratulate. You said the introduction was strong. Thank you very much. Actually, that was not me at all. But I do want to. There are parts of the introduction that don't say, everything about you and how you've gotten started at where you are. Like, were you always interested in rugby? Is this something that were there other sports that you played? How did you end up in Memphis? And so I kind of want to start right there with learning more about you and your journey. So if you could just share that about how you got to where you are right now, that'd be great for our listeners and our viewers.
Middle school, and then I moved to South Florida in high school, really mad at my parents because there was no real rugby in South Florida actually anywhere, no high school team, no way to engage in the sport that I now loved. And so my brother, my dad, and I went ahead and started our own high school rugby team at the high school we attended in Florida, had some success there. And then I went to college, and sure enough, again, there was no rugby program at the college I went to, which is Florida Gulf Coast University, a small school in Fort Myers, Florida. And so I ended up starting my own college program there. And, I was the captain, the coach, the administrator. I served every role for this team that I started in college, which is still around today. They haven't really won many games over the last 10 years of existence, but they exist, and that's cool enough for me.
Yeah.
Right.
And those experiences, kind of building our own high school team, building a college program, right after I graduated college, like Chinny mentioned, I joined Teach for America. They sent me to Memphis, and all of a sudden I was an educator and, under-resourced communities. And of course I wanted to make a difference, and I had this unique skill, and it was build rugby teams, because I had done it in high school, I had done it in college. And sure enough, as an educator, you have a really great platform in the school, in your classroom, to recruit kids, retain them, engage with them. And so what better way to make an impact outside the walls of the classroom, after the bell rings. And so we started a rugby team with my co-founder, and the rest is history.
Perfect. That's awesome. It's amazing. It's amazing to see the thread, especially when you are incorporating a parent. You said you and your dad got this thing going, and it's nice to see the legacy in it, and then come full circle where you are now as the executive director. But not just that, but using rugby as a tool to really provide equitable experiences for young people in Memphis, I think is the key here. And it's amazing to see that story start from where it was, and you not liking the sport at all, full circle to using this sport to serve something greater than yourself. And so, yeah.
Well, I have to add this, just that, today, 10 years into MICR, we don't really focus, like, the kids love rugby, the coaches coach rugby, and that is in the name, Memphis Inner City Rugby. But like, it's really the bottom of our totem pole in terms of priorities. But I do have to add, my brother and my dad and I have this theory, because, my dad, he helped start the high school program in Florida, which grew a lot, and there's a huge legacy of success there. I started the team in Florida. Now we have MICR. My brother's a head coach down in Florida. So we're all like leaders in this rugby space, and rugby is still pretty irrelevant in America, right? It's like not that big. And so we have this theory that the three of us have created more rugby players than like any other family in American history, because not only have we like recruited all of these players, but some of the players we've coached and recruited have started their own teams, and or had their own children who play now. And so we think that this web of influence has, we think we're number one in American rugby history for creating rugby players. We don't know for sure.
Your own ecosystem. Right.
Yeah, no, subtle flex. We're just the most influential people on the planet when it comes to rugby in America.
State, and it's a rugby state. Yeah.
That's really it's cool to also think, like, did you, when you were initially, when you moved down to South Florida, and it's like rugby, it was like a foreign language kind of thing. How much of it was you convincing your dad to want to start it, or was it more your dad and you having this shared mutual passion to want to do it? Or was he always just like, yeah, whatever you want to do, like I'll support you in doing what you want to do, kind of thing?
I think it was more, my brother and I were like very upset with our parents, moody teenagers. My brother was in the middle of high school. I was just starting high school, a little easier for me, very hard for my brother. And then all of a sudden our favorite sport was taken away from us. And so he was a father trying to do the right thing and sort of win back the, we were upset, and he was trying to do something great for his kids and sort of answer the bell. We were like, man, Florida sucks. We love New Jersey. Where are our friends? Where is our favorite sport? And he couldn't create friends for us or recreate the greatest pizza in the world. But he could certainly step into a space where maybe we can get the sport back going. So,
you know, it's good because it's also like adolescent resentment is usually best translated through a sport where you just hit people as hard as you can. You know, that's always good.
Well, Leroy, not condoning hitting people, but yes.
Leroy, I want to ask you sort of, you know, what was your relationship with just sports in general, but then before you even got into rugby, were you someone similar to Shane in terms of you liked playing a lot of sports, and then someone was like, "Have you heard of rugby?" And you were like, "What's rugby?"
Well, I didn't grow up in Memphis. So I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I moved down here, so I did a little migration too. And I played basketball. You know, I love sports. I was like this 90-pound skinny kid. So rugby or anything physical was the last thing on my mind. But I got to high school. There was like, it wasn't, you know, a very big high school. So there wasn't a really need for basketball players. There was a need for rugby players. I had a lot of friends in school that was like, just come out. You'll love it. Just come out. I'm like, I guess I will. So I finally go out and like, I mean, I didn't do good my first game. I didn't do great even my first practice or my second practice. But like by the end of the season, we were like third place state champions. And I had fell in love with the game. And then after that, you know, I like traveled the country to play rugby and like didn't realize that I can like all these opportunities was open for me. Just like this one sport to, you know, go from like a kid that never been outside this community to go to California or to go on the other side of the world to, you know, be the language barrier to other cultures and people. So it's like things kind of exploded from just my friend kind of giving me a nudge to, you know, get involved in the sport.
Yeah. I think what it sounds like and what I would say manifesting on this call, but what has always been present is this idea that sports creates family. It creates a space for people to feel connected. It creates the team, you know, that team aspect. And so at PeacePlayers, we have a core value called culture of collaboration, where we, despite our differences, can come together and work collectively. And there's this great impact that arises from that. And so I kind of want to turn it over to you, Shane, and ask you, when did you truly realize that rugby was having this impact with these young people on the court, on the field, but more specifically off the field? And if you have any specific examples to share, that would be awesome. But just sports as a tool for social change, impact, equitable experiences, those things are amazing. And I would just like to hear you highlight when that happened.
Yeah, I mean, when we started MICR, like I was only 22 years old and we had just moved here, you know, after graduating college. And so we got things started right away. We never intended to like start a charity or a nonprofit. It was just my co-founder and I starting a boys team at the school he was teaching at. And we knew it would be like a positive experience, but we like come from a place of privilege and we were only just learning what the landscape of education and poverty and Memphis was really like.
Right.
And so we couldn't quite grasp at the time, like what it could mean or what it did mean in, you know, elements like social emotional learning, you know, the ways that sport, especially one like rugby, can mitigate trauma. You know, these things like we just didn't know about. And ironically, 10 years ago, there actually wasn't as much data or research about these like, you know, healing agents of a sport like this if it's used properly. And we were doing it properly. You know, we were developing really deep relationships. We would provide a lot of support just to kids for being part of the team. We would give them food and rides and free cleats. We didn't charge them a dime. We would meet their families, and we were just doing the best we could. And we knew it was tough work, but we were like totally unaware of like the data or the neuroscience or any of the like, you know, research-based impact that we might have been making until like about a year into it, when there was this like high level of buy-in. You know, all of our programs are based in school partnerships. And there was this like really high level buy-in from school administrators and teachers coming to us being like, you need to talk to this student because he loves rugby, but he hates this class. And all of a sudden we're wedged into this setting where all of a sudden, before we blinked our eyes, and rugby mattered in the school setting because administrators saw it as an asset. They knew how much the kids loved it. And so we kind of fell backwards and like walked backwards into the realization that, wow, like this has slowly, or actually quickly, become a legitimate entity in the lives of our kids and in the schools they attended. And so, about a year into it, when teachers and administrators began to lean on this random rugby program that came in as an external, asset to the school, it became something that was sought after and valued and utilized as a resource to leverage so that kids would be their best selves on the field and in the classroom, behaviorally and academically. It just started to work in ways that transcended wins and losses. And that's when we kind of realized like, wow, like this is something special.
Right. And Leroy, we're hearing Shane's perspective, but I would love to hear your perspective. What impact did rugby have on your life, your friends, your teammates? I mean, especially off the field.
So off the field, I mean, rugby is still like kind of the epicenter of our friend group and my core community, like the people I still communicate, hang around with, do life with pretty much. My best friends, my roommates, all throughout college, still now, high school. Like, I mean, when I went through rough times in high school, I slept on a friend's couch that brought me to the rugby team. And, his family took care of me, right? So, like, it was things like that the community, like the family, the parents bought into it. Like, when you weren't just friends with the player, or the teammate, you was friends with his whole family, his mom, his dad, his cousin, everybody that came cheering on at the games, everyone that brought, apples and oranges or helped out in the community. Like, it just became like this, like, huge, family. And so, outside the field, I just seen it, one bring us together, it's really cool. And then another thing is, I mean, of course, classes, when you want to play, you're going to work hard in the class. I see some of my friends are some of the craziest guys that you would not think would graduate high school, but rugby is the reason why. And because of that, like, they're doing successful in like the military and college and different areas of their life, just because they stuck it through because they can't play the sport. As far as like me opportunity wise, I mean, for my team, like, or just different players, we had the opportunity to get like scholarships to go travel and play, for teams like high level teams, when you got to try out for, it was really cool in that way. I remember my freshman year, me and Coach Young, I still call Coach Young, but we was in his car. You still drive that, right? Yeah, the Camry. And so this is about 8 years ago. 8 years ago. Yeah. And we were sitting driving, and like this is like, when I think back to this, and now I know this is the moment where we realized something that we didn't know was going to happen. This is before, it was like a huge, entity. It was still, I mean, it was young, but it was growing. And he sat in there, he said, Leroy, you're a freshman. He said, 4 years, you're going to have opportunities that no one in my series is going to have. Y'all going to have state championships, and y'all going to have college scholarships to play. He was just telling me all these things, kind of feeding me into the sport as he was dropping me off at home. And I'm just thinking, like, I'm just imagining this idea in my head. Like, I'm manifesting, thinking, like, what does this look like? And then, I mean, not, realizing now, but, I look back and all those things happened. All those things came to fruition. Wow. Like, all things, we talked about in that car. We kind of, sat there, just me and him, and like not really thinking it through like it was going to happen, but it happened in that way.
Perfect. Sounds like he planted the
seeds
in you, and you guys are both talking about sports as a tool for access and opportunity, and also a space to dream, right? To dream and have dreams fulfilled. I think that's beautiful.
Even just to have the space to dream is super important. I'm really so I lived in South Africa for a little bit, and South Africa, it's very, very different from America in the sense where rugby is bigger than football in America to them, and I've always been fascinated with rugby. And I think a lot of you would say if you put people in the situation of playing rugby in America, they would enjoy it. But there's some external barrier, either internal or external barrier for youth in America to not either want to do rugby or participate in rugby.
Access, right.
Yeah, no access to it. And I'm curious, and this is for both of you, sort of, rugby clearly through what the MIRC is that it translates just like any other major sport in America in terms of teaching values like discipline, competition, teamwork, leadership, self-confidence, self-esteem, all of these things. But for some reason, people haven't gotten on the wagon. Maybe I'm just assuming that, but I'm curious as to why do you think that is? What is the main sort of hesitancy amongst the US for not wanting to get into more so the rugby space? And what do you think the trajectory is for rugby in the future, kind of thing?
I'm curious what you think, Leroy. For me, I when I was in high school, and playing rugby, I remember thinking that we were like ahead of the curve because it was like 2005, 2006, and rugby was very, very small. And I was like, man, in 10 years, when I'm like in my 20s, like this is going to be huge. Like we're going to see this on national TV every week kind of thing. And while that has somewhat come true, it's way behind what I ever thought it would be. And I think, I think it's economics, because rugby is not like, it's not like lacrosse where there's like, it's just like built on the platform of very wealthy people. Like the literally the governing body of American rugby is bankrupt, and there is not just this like major financial backing. So it remains this like grassroots effort where like 95% of people who work in American rugby are volunteers. And it's just like, so there's a lack of capacity to grow. And that's because there's like kind of a small market and there's not this like strong financial platform. And we're in a pretty American football dominated country. So maybe there's only space in the dominant market for one very physical sport. I don't know. But I love how women's rugby has sort of accelerated even beyond men's rugby in terms of the way it's being marketed, the amount of, thank you. The amount of women who play and participate, the access it's created. It's not fighting against like football. So I don't know. That's just kind of my theory. I don't know if you have a different one, Leroy.
I mean, I agree pretty much most of that, but like definitely I think it's just one of the sports is like, I feel like it's not as competitive as other sports. It's competitive, of course, like when you go out there, you play to win, but like at the end of the day, it's not like you're beefing with the other team or it's like a rivalry, it's a friendly match, in games and, in a cool way. But other than that, like women's rugby is really great. As far as like the PR7s and things like that, that's coming out, I think it's like catching a lot of hype. It's just it's just retention, like issues. Same thing with like local stuff is, keeping teams, in our leagues just here is like a struggle. So keeping fans is definitely a thing that like is just a big struggle now.
I'm sure I'm not biased when I say all women's sports are just amazing. Anyway,
but if
I'm not biased here. I knew
women's rugby is insanely good.
I know. I've not seen anything, but I'm sure it is. I mean, when you say women's.
Women's and men's in South Africa, at least, it was just like, the Durban Sharks, which were this, local team, were in a huge stadium and it was filled to capacity every game. And they would have these games with inner city rivals and it would be super bloodbath, sort of like very intense, like a rivalry. But then right afterwards, both teams would walk out of the stadium together and drink beer together. And that is such not a westernized concept for sports in a lot of ways. And like that, I think rugby just separates itself entirely in terms of the community it builds, the camaraderie, in terms of like they compete when they're on the field, like you said, Leroy, but it's not like overly competitive. There's like this detachment to be like, we just love this game, but we also love the community that it brings and sort of builds. And like we'll have a drink afterwards, kind of thing.
Culture collaboration.
Yeah.
Which
I just think is really cool.
Emmett, what are your thoughts? You think it's about that time?
It could be about that time. We need that exhale before we dive right back in, So Chinny, why don't you explain to them what they're in store for right now? I'll stretch.
Welcome to the lightning round. It's a very, very amazing round led by the icebreaker king himself. He might be transitioning into the lightning round king as well. Yeah. You'll be asked a series of questions. You'll have 3 to 4 seconds to answer those questions. No pressure at all, because as Emmett says, we will
just heavily judge you on each of your answers. So don't worry about
it. Now, this is a light and fun section and portion of our podcast to get to know you better. And maybe we might say Shane answers first and Leroy answers second. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's 3 seconds. So really it should only be 6 seconds in total at the end of the day.
Really.
So
I've got my
first
pen.
team all lightning round. Yeah, you got your pen, you got your timer.
Yep, got my timer.
Leroy, Shane, you ready?
We're ready.
Let's go.
Okay. Bowling or mini golf?
Mini golf.
Bowling. Oh, okay.
Ooh,
I like this.
I like it.
Conflict already. That's perfect.
All right.
Okay. Still water or seltzer water?
Still.
Oof.
Flying or driving?
Flying.
Wow.
Dry or humid?
Dry.
Okay, good. The book version or the movie version?
Movie.
Yeah, movie.
Yeah, there you go. My guys right here. Okay, are you a little bit country or a little bit rock and roll?
Rock and roll. Yeah.
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, who wins in a game of rugby? A taco or a grilled cheese?
Probably a grilled cheese. Taco's gonna break.
I'm thinking soft taco. Soft taco wins.
Soft taco. Okay.
Okay.
Everyone usually says in any sport, everyone usually says the grilled cheese because it's just a big body. It's a big body. You know what I mean?
Cheesy.
Yeah,
it's the
a taco is so creative and dynamic with so many different ingredients.
I like that.
It's going the philosophical route.
The versatility.
Okay.
No, the versatility. He's right. He's right. Okay. Summer or winter Olympics?
Summer.
Absolutely.
Okay. Art museums or history museums?
Art.
I say history.
Okay. Most underrated childhood game?
My childhood, Smash Bros.
Smash Bros. Super Mario Smash Bros. Shouts out Super Mario's on the Nintendo 64. If you were a real OG.
Yeah.
I would say like tetherball. Like the game.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. I used to be the queen at tetherball. Sorry. I was taller than everyone. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, so bad.
Yeah.
Love tetherball. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. Which would you prefer? A horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
I'd say a horse-sized duck.
100 big. 100 duck-sized horses. Probably.
Yeah. He wants that army. He wants that army.
Yeah, that's insane. Like
that's a squad.
I don't want one big duck. No.
Right.
Okay, a massage or an afternoon nap?
Massage.
Okay. Yes, let's do it.
Comedy or drama?
Comedy.
Drama.
Ooh. Okay, the last thing you taught someone else to do.
Ooh, that's nice. I love this question.
I taught someone how to scan a donor database for duplicate records and delete the duplicates.
So did I.
That's important.
So did I. Just
Those
yesterday.
Are the little things. No. Those are the little things.
Man, on a less important note, like I helped my best friend build his 2K players, man.
Hey, virtually those are the little things also. You need that's a good spectrum.
Help is always needed. Yep.
Shouts out to my player. Okay, right. One thing you want listeners to remember from today's episode.
Yeah.
Wow. That in a very little town called Memphis with a very irrelevant sport called rugby, there's magic happening with the best kids in the world, and it's because they embraced it, an unfamiliar challenge, and believed in themselves.
Wonderful.
There was a 22-year-old that changed lives, and now it's a 21-year-old sitting in the seat next to him. Help building the foundation to continue the same thing and transition to the next generation of students, and like that you could be that 22-year-old or 21-year-old and that you don't realize it, but the people around you, you can impact them to change lives in enormous ways. And don't take that for granted. Don't miss it. Just always have your eye out for it.
That's awesome. I
It's a
love
mic drop
that.
moment. Those two mic drop moments.
Absolutely.
Right
We
there.
got the foundation, the grassroots of an idea, and then we have the pay it forward result of that, and then that person paying it forward into the world. That's awesome.
The play it forward.
The play it forward.
Oh,
Oh,
that's exactly what I said.
Oh, look at
There
that. They
it
just
is.
moved up to
There
the
it
top
is.
on the list. They just moved up to the top on the list. They
Yes,
got through
no,
it, Chinny.
yeah.
Well done.
Yes,
Insert
congratulations on that.
applause. Well done. You guys got through it. Good job. Good job. We'll review the scores and email them back to you, and
Yes,
then,
yes.
we'll go from there.
And the winner
We'll wipe
be...
the sweat off our brow here.
Yeah.
Okay, and so this is the portion of the show where we like to take a deeper dive into, you and your work. And so one of the things that I really love about the work that we do at PeacePlayers, and the one thing that really resonates with me as a woman of color is that we provide equitable experiences to young people, especially young people of color. And I think it's safe to say that in our society, we mystify this idea of equity, and people talk about equity. We talk about access. We talk about resources. We talk about opportunity for people of color. But then we never really dive deep into what true equity means, and which is to say there needs to be a strong support system to ensure they succeed with that equitable opportunity. A lot of people just say, oh, let's provide these equitable opportunities. Let's give this person this, let's give this person that. But just providing equitable opportunities simply isn't enough, right? We need to provide the support system around those equitable opportunities, around these people of color, around whomever we're providing that resource to ensure that they succeed. And my question to you is, how does MICR address this challenge, right? You're not just out there saying, oh, we're providing equity. What's the support system that you guys are really leaning into to ensure that the equity that you're providing your youth are successful in?
It's a great question.
It's a great question. And yeah, so at MICR, we've thought a lot. We're almost 10 years old now, and we've been thinking a lot, especially through COVID, getting a little bit of time to kind of reflect on what we've done and what we want to do. And it's been a lot of looking in the mirror, listening to the community, and we developed what are now the 3 R's in the DNA of MICR that has always existed, but now we're trying to codify these 3 R's and make sure it's tied into what every coach does and what every, the language they speak and how we talk about the organization and our kids, in an asset-based language. And the 3 R's are relational, responsive, and relentless. And they're just words. These words don't equal equity, but it really is tied into the DNA of everything we do with kids and alumni like Leroy. And so relational is really the top of the list, because we don't serve thousands of kids. We serve a couple hundred kids, and each one of them has a meaningful relationship with a coach. And that is the foundation upon which their love for the game is met with actual resources. And we consider the relationship with a highly trained, trauma-informed coach to be a major resource. So we are relational because all of the work we do and all that we learn about kids is based on relationships. Right. And that's why our coaches are really good at leveraging their love for the game, their relationship with a student, to get the best out of that student, or to help put their life on maybe a different trajectory because of the strength of an authentic, meaningful, dependable relationship with a caring, talented, competent, certified, and qualified adult. And in most cases, that adult is an alumni like Leroy. And so it's so easy to form that relationship for our alums who literally come from the same neighborhoods and schools that they're leading and coaching and forming these relationships in. And then it's responsive. So relational is the top, then it's responsive. Everything we do, all the services we provide, the things that we invest in are responsive to what students, families, and schools have told us matters, right? So we didn't just create this system where we provide nutrition and transportation at every practice and game. We just learned by listening and experiencing that these are needs the community has, that the kids have, because for them, showing up is half the battle. And we realize that we can't be burdening families to pay a fee or drive their kid to every game or practice or that every kid is going to show up nourished with, you know, a lot of times they're on empty stomachs. So these are things that we've had to be responsive to. And same with the schools. How does an external entity operate within a school that has its own laundry list of problems? How do we come interact with that in a way that is an asset, a valuable entity, rather than something that gets in the way or is like,
exactly,
saying we do one thing, but, you know, cutting corners on the real work and when it gets really tough. So we're responsive in that way. And then relentless. You know, our DNA at MICR is to like answer the call at midnight when the student needs a ride, to go pick them up from the highway when they're an alumni and their tire falls off their car. And there's ways that this, you know, plays out at all corners of our organization, but it is also the reason why we have this world-class alumni support program. So we have K through 12 programming, elementary, middle school, and high school, but really where like the high impact work begins is at age 18, when our students can come in and not only receive a scholarship, but they can get an internship with us or through us. They can get a job coaching or filming or refereeing, you know, so that's why we have 25 plus alumni engaged and on our payroll. They can get mental health counseling, continued transportation assistance, continued nutritional assistance, and travel opportunities, and the opportunities to get funded certifications like being a medic or a trainer, a referee, a coach, or even someone who films games, or like Leroy helps us with some development work. And so, you know, so relational, responsive, relentless. We don't pretend to be lifesavers or experts in what it takes to change a community or change a life, but we've learned a lot, looked in the mirror, listened a lot, and try to design everything based on strong relationships, responsive programming and services, and a relentless pursuit of doing what's best for kids at all times.
Right. I think what's key here is that one of the things that you said is like half the battle is them showing up, right? Getting to practice, or getting to these events, or getting to whatever you guys are creating in the community. And I think from your perspective, the other battle is ensuring that you're really truly listening, and that you're really being an equitable presence. You're providing these resources in a way that people from the community truly need them. And listening is the key to that. So I really am happy that you guys lean fully into the idea of providing resources people need, and not creating these resources from the top of your head and say, you know what, we're going to go and do this great thing for people who actually don't really care about these things.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, also Chinny, like listening, but he touched upon another point, which is the like self-awareness piece, the like looking in the mirror and showing where's my position in all of this, and what both like what are the ripple effects that with my position entirely have on the whole situation. And you know, Shane, it's amazing, like the 10 years that you've been there and the amount of like web that you've created and all of you guys have created is incredibly impactful and incredible.
Right.
And you know, we were talking to Fred Turner in a past episode, and we talked about DEI. I think it's diversity, equity and inclusion. Did I get that right, Jenny? Yes.
Yes.
a lot of acronyms, but it's you know, you're in a position of power. That's just like the name of the game. And sort of, you know, when you're in a position of power, there's this new level of responsibility, not only for yourself, but also with how the organization operates in a lot of different ways. And so I think there's a lot of organizations that me and Chinny have talked with that have somebody who's representing somebody else kind of thing. And when it starts to get sticky or a little bit of a hairy situation is when the intention behind how that organization is operating is not the intention of the community that it's serving. If that makes sense.
It makes sense.
And so I think, you know, the 3 R's that you said, it's like providing a framework and an ability to sort of say, these are sort of the training wheels that we can provide for all the coaches and everybody. And it's a sort of, we're going to take the training wheels off, and eventually this framework is sort of going to be self driving in a lot of ways, where there's not going to be anybody behind the wheel. But I'm curious for you, you know, what like that awareness piece for yourself, being, you know, a white man representing a lot of underrepresented and people of color in the youth community. What are suggestions that you have for other organizations looking to improve that DEI and also keep that sort of self-awareness as sort of heads of
Right.
organizations. Did
How
that
do
make
you
sense?
keep yourself accountable? Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
How do you keep
yeah,
yourself accountable in a
Yeah,
position of privilege?
exactly.
Yeah.
I would say like all of it is leadership in some form, but I would say like stop trying to be a leader and find a way to empower the others to become a follower. Even if you're in the role like me, I serve as executive director, but one of the things I'm most proud of, we're also proud of, is, we ratified a 3-year strategic plan a year ago. So we're 1 year into it. And before we even took one step forward into strategizing and brainstorming what our priorities would be in the post-pandemic era, we got all alumni and families involved and literally just had them be the leaders of the committee. We were just note takers, for like a solid 6 months, literally just taking notes on what do the families and children and students and alumni think that our core values should be? What kind of investments do they think we should make? And they served in legitimate decision-making roles where, like, maybe in a lot of organizations, it's like the leadership committee and the board decide everything. We literally stepped back and just became note takers for several months to collect all of the passion, concerns, enthusiasm, thoughts, opinions of the community that we're serving. And that is what created our strategic plan. Then we created a DEI committee of our own, which is alumni-led. Tiance Harris and Terrence Hampton lead a group of students who literally actively hold our organization accountable, because our organization is led by a white man. And so our own alumni serve on this DEI committee. They're so talented. They're so passionate. They are not scared to raise an issue when they think something is anything but diverse, equitable, or inclusive.
Right.
And so they will celebrate us when we deserve celebration, and they will sound the alarms when they think something is misaligned with the priorities of their DEI committee that they created with our support. And so those are the things I'm most proud of. And it's like, get out of the way, in my role, like, get out of the way, listen, and you don't have to lead everything, like follow. And then the best results will kind of transpire. And you talk about diversity. I mean, we now have, as of last week, when we hired our first ever 2 program facing full-time staff, which is going to be an incredible asset to our organization. We're now a 5-person staff with 1 male. That's me. And so we're now a women-led, alumni-led, community-led organization. And I'm more of a follower than I've ever been before. And that's, I think, the best place for us to be.
Right.
Oh, yeah. It's one thing to just talk, but if you walk the walk, also that's
exactly.
that volumes,
your external message needs to match your internal message.
100%.
And we're talking to Jessica Gelman, a guest that we had, and she was talking about, at the very least, the community that you serve, you need to have representation within your organization, right? If the community that you serve is 75% African American, you probably should have 75% African American in your organization. And so I really enjoy that. Okay, we don't have much time, but I do want to end with this question, as Emmett and I are both curious. We know that rugby is a perfect sport to be able to teach character, and also to lean into leadership, teamwork, and respect. And my question to you is more lighthearted, but when you have that last team huddle before the end of practice, what do you say to your team? What is your pep talk? This is for both of you, so you can answer however.
Happy to, unless you got something top of the dome.
Yeah, I mean, I love team huddles. I mean, if it's before game practice, is like, all right, we finna get this last run and clear everything out your head, all your problems, those finals exams or classes, whatever you got, those issues at home. I know, if things going on at home with your parents, or if your parents not there, if that's the problem, like whatever it is, go ahead, let it go. Whatever that thing is for you right now, let that thing go and release it in this run. Let it all go in this run. Let it all behind you. And when you come back, be a new person, be ready to start, go home. Be a whole different energy and leave all that negative thing in that run and let it out. So,
got it.
One of my favorite things.
Thank you, Leroy.
Coach, I'm ready. I'm ready, Coach.
Right. Shane?
for me, if I'm ending a practice, I become a little bit of a salesman, because for us, it's all about retention, right? Like, it's not about the win or the loss or how they're performing as much as can we get them to the next practice? Because if we can get them to the next practice, we can make an impact on their lives. So it's a sales pitch after the practice. I'm like, guys, like, we got a game coming up. There's a trip coming up in 2 months. I'm literally reminding them, like, guys, like, there's so much to look forward to. I know this practice was hard. I know you got to go to school tomorrow. I know you got to do your assignments tonight, but like, we got games coming up. We got travel experiences coming up. Our end of season celebration, man, everyone's getting some swag. Like, guys, this is worth it. We're building something. It's a non-traditional sport. You're a pioneer. You're a trailblazer. Like, remember how important that is and how many great things we have coming up. So I'm just kind of trying to sell them in terms of retention and staying engaged, just to get them to the next practice. And then after games or at halftime in games, it's often about actually the inequity. I'll try to get them fired up a little bit about, like, guys, like, this is a traditionally, like, homogenous white sport. Like, you are making history in some ways. When you step onto this field, you're changing people's outlook about the community. Because we don't play against teams that are predominantly Black and brown children. We're playing against teams where the parents on the other sideline, the referees are like, I've never seen a team of, all Black rugby players. And that's what MICR brings. That's who our kids are. And, I try to, like, motivate them about the opportunity they have, not the burden. They shouldn't have to face a burden of, like, representing their community. Like, that's unfair for any kid to have to face, or any person, from a certain demographic. But I try to get them to carry a little bit of an inspiration and a pride in that what they're doing is different, and they are overcoming the odds, and they have an opportunity to kick butt and level the playing field and serve justice. For a small moment in life, and to enjoy that, to soak it up, and to, just remember how special they are as young men and women who took a chance, who embraced a challenge, and who are doing something most people would be scared to do.
Perfect. I love that.
Like, just Chitty, I want to just add, because Shane, you hit the nail on the head in terms of circling it back to what he said earlier on in the episode about just giving people the opportunity to, who usually don't have the space to dream, to not have a space to even fulfill those dreams. Just these buzzwords that you're telling them, trailblazer, pioneer, that's so crucial, because a lot of kids just don't hear that. And also are like, they get to, even if they hated practice, they're going home going, damn, I'm a pioneer. I didn't know that, I'm a trailblazer.
I'm changing the world.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And that, just those, like, little shifts, even if it was just for a moment, are so crucial for youth development in terms of just later on in life, feeling like they matter and what they're doing is important. So just tip your cap to both of you, because seriously.
Absolutely. Yes, Leroy, I love the restorative power. Go be new, let it go, leave it behind you, and give your very best. Shane, I love the sales pitch, which is, I would change it to a sales pitch to a dream pitch, right? It's really a dream pitch. You're pitching this dream.
Do you guys have any plugs you want to share on the episode? Where can people find you? How can people support you?
I appreciate that. Well, Chinny and Emmett, just thank you, first of all, for having us on and giving us your time and this platform to talk about what we do. We also love what PeacePlayers does, and it was so great to work together on the Beyond Sport, committee, being a co-award winner, and then working together on the DEI survey that we created together. So just thank you for what y'all do and for giving us this time. My plug, would just be that, we're a super grassroots charity. And so as hard, the work that we do is so hard. We're really in the trenches. We serve some of the, most under-resourced zip codes in America. And, we chase after what's difficult. We don't do the easy work. We chase after the difficult work. And then on top of that, we have to fundraise with no, larger governing body or supporting funding entity. We have to beg, borrow, and steal every resource we get to sustain the work that we do. And on October 20th, 2022, we have our 10-year anniversary celebration, 5 months away. And we're really excited to celebrate 10 years of incredible work and pioneering and trailblazing by our kids who were there from 2012 all the way to when girls advocated for themselves to have their own programs in 2015. All of these incredible leaders and game changers. We're going to celebrate them all. And we're really hoping that is sort of catalytic fundraising event for us. So if anyone out there is interested in just supporting us, our website's memphisintercityrugby.org. And October 20th, 2022, you won't want to miss that, whether you attend virtually or down here in Bluff City, Memphis. It's going to be special.
Yeah, Leroy's going to be the keynote speaker for that, or what, what's the deal?
Right, what's going on? Yeah,
I did like the 8-year one.
Leroy's like, been there, done that. I'm kidding.
Thank you all
guys
for being on the show. It was awesome. And that's it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening and joining us on this most amazing journey. If you like what you heard, we encourage you to like and subscribe. We've got many more conversations and stories to share in the coming weeks, years. And I hope it goes on and on and
Forever.
on, because these conversations are amazing. Like I always say, please share with your friend and leave a positive 5-star review for us. We read every one of them and we really appreciate them.
Yeah.
That being said, Emmett, your thoughts on today's show?
The reviews truly do help with my serotonin levels that are dangerously low these past few days. No, that was, oh my God. I didn't even finish my coffee. I was so entranced in the conversation, Chinny, that I forgot I even had coffee. That's very rare for me. I'm basically like a third of my body is just coffee in my veins at this point.
Right.
They
are your coffee.
They're so humble. And they're so, like, usually the people who drive the biggest impacts and places that need the most are never, they were very like hesitant to talk about themselves. They're more so wanting to just talk about the stuff that they're doing and the importance of it, which is just, again, we have guests on that are just have the most infectious qualities about them. And just like, if you listen to these episodes, just notice some themes and threads of similarities between all of them and the personality traits, and you know, just be more like them. Honestly, you'll live a more
like
fulfilled.
Yourself. No. right.
Figure it out. No, it was incredible. I loved you know, talking with you to all these guests, Chinny. It's really a dream that, you know, we get to do this once a week. You know, just to meet amazing people. But hey, if you want to hear me and Chinny talk more, or you want to learn more about what we're doing, you can learn about PeacePlayers. Did you know this, Chinny? By following us on our website.
Absolutely.
At www.peacePlayers.org. And if you wanted to see some behind the scenes footage, maybe how I do my hair or how Chinny picks out an outfit for the show, finding the behind the scenes, you can follow us on social media at Play It Forward Podcast on Instagram, but also on our main channels at PeacePlayers International. That's on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. I'm pretty sure Tumblr and SoundCloud and LimeWire. No, those last three, especially LimeWire, don't go on. They're not existing.